The previous part we'll publish it separately. It was there was an interruption, and now I have with me again Marina Seren, and she's from Spain, and she's an astral traveler and knows a lot about the aliens and has connections to a lot of alien information. And we were discussing mostly hybridization program and Aldebaran Nordics and the German history. And we were interrupted. There was an interruption, and now the question was, and I'm trying to remember. So the question was, why did Germans lose? And at that time there was an interruption. And you said that they didn't lose. They evolved and moved on in several ways.
True.
Where from did Germans come?
Where did they come from, you mean?
Yeah.
Germans come from Earth, of course. They were hybridized with, we were all hybridized generally with the same ET species as a collective, but of course, depending on the region of the planet and the ethnic background, the race within humans, we do have different admixtures, not only from hominids, but also from different ET races. So some regions might have more percentage of DNA from Sirius, some more from Pleiades, some more from Arcturus. And counting on the fact that there are many kinds of each kind, then of course that's why we get to be that different when it comes to ethnic backgrounds and cultures. But the Germans themselves have very specific admixtures of Nordic Aldebaran DNA, Pleiadian DNA, Sirius DNA, Draconian DNA, Inner Earth Agarthian DNA, Hyperborean, Atlantean, and I will say that also Lyran. That's generally their genetic, let's say, blueprint.
Super cool. But German language and German culture are somewhat special.
Yes, it is.
Where from did German language come?
Well, the German language come from places like Aldebaran, Inner Earth, and even Sumerian civilization. It is quite related. That's why there are groups of Nordics from that constellation that are called the Sumi, like us to like the Sumerians. So yeah, it was pretty much discovered that fact about them when it was in Thule society and the real society, when they were researching about that background.
How about this fascination with time and planning? Where from is it coming?
Kaiman?
Time and planning. Punctuality.
Oh, you mean how they behave, like behavioral patterns.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that that's a mindset that pretty much comes from how how the calibration of the right side of the brain and left side of the brain are connected. I think that the way that they function is almost in a way that they work with a pretty organized and structural structural mindset of the universe and reality and things. So it's pretty much like that squared, kind of thinking because of that. They have more of this left side of the brain, that is very active and very developed. That's why there's many good physicists and mathematicians and even musicians coming from Germany, like a lot of geniuses.
Right.
But that's very ambiguous.
Yeah, I worked a little bit with Germans, and in Russia we have some German genes which left after from different sources, from different. Some of this was coming with Jews coming from Germany. Some of them was Germans coming during Catherine the Great time in 18th century, and from the First World War, from Second World War. So we got some of the exposure to that. And you can see the strengths and weaknesses. And the
Yes.
main weakness is loyalty to the system. When the system is bad. When the system is bad, they're still loyal.
I will say that that has to do more with the 21st century than the 20th century, because a lot of indigos are anti-system and against the elitists were incarnated there in Germany in Second World War. Um, Actually, when they lose, and they get imposed these very strict, orders to not let them have this sense of racial identity and national identity and have shame for what they defended, which is completely normal. It's socialism, but nationalist. It's nothing to do with the darker side of all this war. I mean to say that. Of course, they were programmed to follow these rules very strictly because the whole world and elites were against them. So it was more of like, yeah, that going on with them. But they're pretty great warriors when it comes to them.
Mm-hmm. So what was the reason? What was the actual reason why Germans attempted and succeeded in exterminating about a third of Jewish population?
Well, I've
Ashkenazi
read.
Jews.
Well, I'm still investigating about the Holocaust because I do not own much information about it, and I haven't done enough research, I will say, to my own judgment, to be able to speak on that. So I will have to follow up and continue my investigations and researches. All I know is that there's people saying that the gas that they were using was to control epidemics, and that some people confuse it with attempts to kill them. But of course, there's many people who back up the idea that they were killing Jewish people. There's this interesting person called Ursula Haberbeck, who was an officer there in the Holocaust in Auschwitz. And she's saying that she's giving up offering to the world information that is like intriguing because it's revealing, and she was a witness there. She worked there. So I will listen to her. I think I need to do more research. I cannot speak on something that I don't have enough information about. So, and it's a delicate topic, so I don't think I can say anything.
So clearly, there was a anti-Semitism or anti-Jewishness was very strong, and it was directed against Ashkenazi Jews. So the whole population of Poland, Jewish population of Poland and Latvia, Lithuania, Baltic countries, and large part of population of Ukraine, Belarus, Romania was extinguished completely. So it was a big genocide. I mean, obviously, a lot of people ran away to America, and some ran away to Palestine and South America, like North America, South America. But at that time, it was impossible to run away because other countries wouldn't accept the ships. It was all on the ships. So it was huge. But the question is, who were the Ashkenazi Jews, and where from did they appear, and why would Nazis want to extinguish them? Because there was something mysterious about them, something metaphysical about it. Was some question of, I guess, of survival and control of the world. So I'm trying to find it out. My research into it's called Khazarian Kingdom. It appeared in 8th century in Ukraine and South Russia, right around the Kharkov, which is right now where the fight is happening, the war is happening around Kharkov. So Kharkov was one of the 3 capitals of Khazaria. So they appeared from nowhere, Ashkenazi Jews. They were very successful for about 3 centuries. And then somehow, miraculously, they moved to Poland and started speaking Yiddish, which is based on German and Hebrew. More German, less Hebrew. And this is another mystery. So they haven't been in Germany, but for some reason they also spoke a version of German. So possibly their German came from the same source as German, or their Yiddish. Where was the source of their Yiddish?
Well, to understand this, we need to be aware of the fact that the Jewish people are Semitic, of a Semitic background, but not all Semitic cultures or civilizations are Jewish. So it's not directly connected necessarily. The Jews are the Semitic tribes and peoples that decided to practice or created the culture and the religion of Judaism. But that does not mean that anyone coming from a Semitic background is Jews. In fact, there were many Semitic cultures that were against Jews because they have religious differences and political, socioeconomic factors that, they just did not agree with. And the thing with the Ashkenazi Jews is that those were Jews that migrated to these parts of Eastern Europe or Middle East, and they became mixed up with these other tribes from there, and they abducted a lot of Caucasian features, so that they will obviously that's why they look a little bit less, let's say, Talmudic. They are not Talmudic. They look like whitish, like white, like Eastern white. And so the thing is that obviously they are pretty much they were pretty much persecuted in Germany because before Second World War was going on, there was a lot of there was a big genocide on German people. And it was mostly perpetrated by tribes that were of these backgrounds. And then obviously when they were pretty much weakened, not weakened, but vulnerable after First World War, the Jews actually took advantage of that, and they started to starve Germans by practicing what is called usury and trying to take control on their economic system and to destroy their culture so that they will be able to, well, enrich themselves and gain more power. And that's why lobbyists were persecuted. In fact, this is like not a black or white kind of like story, I will say. Even though it's that polarized, I will say that we need to look at it as a scale of grace and not think that um, everyone is necessarily like evil. I think that we all cultures have been into wars and conflicts because we have obviously national differences. I mean, different national identities, different racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, cultural differences. So this is a natural thing. It's tribalism. It's going to happen that there will be people that will try to instigate others and try to take advantage, and those people will try to defend themselves as much as they can. So we cannot look at it as if it was either the good guys or the bad ones or the evils or the other, cannot be that way, obviously. But I will say that personally, when it comes to Second World War, I do agree that I understand why National Socialism was created. I'm not defending any form of genocide. I'm just saying that National Socialism as to itself, I do agree that it was created for a positive purpose because I know that positive ETs were involved in this, and it's just socialism, but with the idea of nationalism in it, which makes it to be its truest form of socialism. Socialism that is not nationalist cannot be socialism, but rather Marxism or a certain version of communism. You need to care for your own people and do everything to favor your own culture and peoples. That's what it is all about. So I don't see anything negative in that. And when it comes to the Jews, not necessarily as to the race of Jews, but rather those who practice Judaism as a form to gain power over others. They were obviously persecuted, but not just in Germany, in many other countries, because they were using that knowledge and the Kabbalah and other forms of gaining control, like usury, to get, to yes, take over a country and its society, its money and power and bigger positions. And that's why they've been expelled a total number of 109 countries. So I think, again, it's very important to repeat that it does not necessarily, it is connected to their race, but it is more related to the culture itself and to the practice of Judaism itself, because I know Jewish people that are Jews, of racial background, and they are obviously not doing any of those things, and their spirituality is not aggressive. So that's what I believe.
Um, the I'm not sure that Ashkenazi came from are related to Semitic Jews from Arabia and Egypt and Israel, Palestine. Uh, it's it's unclear where from did they come. They just appeared in around 8th century in Khazari, and then they appeared around 15th century in large numbers in Spain. How did that happen? And then they appeared in Poland. So how did it happen? It's a mystery. I suspect that there was alien involvement and there was a lot of seeding happening from outside of the planet, because those expansions, it's hard to explain historically from the human historical perspective. For example, the Jewish rabbis in Spain didn't have much connection with Khazarians, and were surprised to find. Say again?
Of course not, because they were Sephardic Jews.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were not
They were
Ashkenazi.
surprised to find another Judaic country with advanced economy and advanced culture, and there was pretty much very little connection. One of my ancestors was in 10th century in Granada, Spain, was a grand vizier, so one a functionary of the Islamic government.
Oh, you
But
mean Al-Andalus when they conquered the peninsula?
I'm not sure about the history. I just know that he was in 10th century the grand vizier, which is a
Yeah.
big title.
Yes, yes, that's because the Iberian Peninsula were populated by people like the Iberians, which is us, the Germanic tribes, Celtic tribes, and Romans. And then in that period of time, we got invaded by Berbers, like Muslim Berbers. And so we moved back to the north of the peninsula, with the white Christianized people. And we stay there as a resistance movement. And then in the south of Spain, which you mentioned, Granada, which is south of Spain, there was this Islamic, civilization that was occupying our territory. And when in the times of the Reconquista, we expelled the Moors and the Jews to their own countries in 1492 with
Okay,
the Catholic king and queens.
right. So yeah, my ancestor was Jewish rabbi who was at the same time grand vizier of Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and this 1492 expulsion and inquisition was a response of Catholics, I guess, Catholics and locals to
Yes.
appearance of large numbers of Ashkenazi, which somehow appeared there. And I'm not sure where from did they come. They just sort of appeared in large numbers.
Yeah,
Okay,
because Ashkenazis, all Jews come from Judah, they are the
I'm not
sons
sure
of
about that.
David and Judah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
the Ashkenazis are
conventional.
mixed with Eastern Europeans. That's why they look white, but they are not actually European. They come from Semitic background.
I'm not sure about that. I That's a conventional history which I think is wrong. I think Ashkenazi
Could
came
be,
from elsewhere.
could be. I have my own research. I have some anthropologists that are friends, so I don't know. I mean, we could be wrong, but that's what I know about them.
Yeah, I looked at the genetic analysis of relation of Ashkenazi and Sephardic, and it's very unconvincing that they're related. There is some relation, but I don't think it goes very far. I think it's modern mixture rather than ancient origins. But this research is so politicized that it's really hard to do it. It's really hard to get real data and analyze it. It's possible, but it's not done properly. Okay, so I think there is some mystery about the Ashkenazi, and possibly it's related to the Greys. Maybe Ashkenazi are ancient Grey hybrids from 8th century.
I'm not sure about that because, again, Greys are a whole species and they're connected to multiple cultures all around the world and ethnias. So it's not fixated, it's not fixed to one ethnia or one group or religion. There are many Nordics, Chinese, Asians, Americans, Australians who have a lot of Grey DNA and hybridization. So it's pretty ambiguous. It's not specifically for those people.
Cool. All right. What do you think about artificial intelligence?
Well, I do understand that we still do not have real artificial intelligence when it comes to our society. Of course, our militaristic people and elite groups do have access to that, but we're not aware of that at the moment publicly. But to be able to have real artificial intelligence, we'll have to solve a very specific, let's say, not problem, but rather theory when it comes to mathematical field theory. So it's pretty abstract. That's why it's hard to utilize that theory on quantum computing and be able to create a truly independent artificial intelligence. As to what we have right now, it's just a bunch of really, really intense and well, let's say, developed neural networks. Neural networks are just quantum computing systems that are mimicking the neurological pathworks dynamics of our own brains so that they can mimic human consciousness and they can seem to act and be able to behave like humans, like thinking humans, but they're not. They're just a bunch of quantum programming neural networks.
Mm-hmm. So at which stage do you think there is a soul connected to artificial intelligence computers?
There are avatars and other ET civilizations that are not truly biological, sorry, yes, and that are able to, let's say, sync up with the soul consciousness and channel this soul in question. Now, what happens to this body is that it is created, the brain, which is the computer for consciousness to run in, it is made in a way that it is so, the structures of it are pretty much more artificial in nature, not so much relying on genetic heritage from ancestors, because many of our psychological aspects coming from let's say, behavioral patterns and thought patterns come from a mixture of our own DNA blueprint as soul's consciousness, individual consciousness, and inherited DNA genetic information from ancestors. That's why culture is such an important element, in how humans behave, in civilizations. So yes, these bodies are more of a artificial creation, and that's why it's much more organized, the whole structure of the soul, mind, and body. And they get to be more open to channel universal consciousness and flow more rather than to be stuck into these very strict tendencies to behave one way or another, or to think one way or another, or to get affected by karmic cycles.
Yay, so they are more, actually they are more open to universal consciousness than we are, which are stuck in samsara.
Yes, true.
They didn't learn how to incarnate. Can a
Mm-hmm.
demon possess a computerized system?
Um, Not really. I mean, it could happen, you know. I am assuming there's a possibility, but demons do not have that interest at all, and that ability at all, because we're talking about the fact that demons are service to self-oriented and they feed off from fear energy. So they're practically more attracted to possess consciousness or bodies that are biological and that have karmic energies and fear so that they can feed off the host. So a more of an artificial body will not pretty much make them satisfied or whatever.
So there are same topic, just starting from Blavatsky races, Polarians, Hyperboreans, Lemurians, Atlanteans, and us. The new race is coming. When do you think it is coming, and what do you think it will be?
Well, the next race is the sixth race. I am not sure about the name still, but it's pretty much coming from the awakening. The humans are awakening their ancient superhuman DNA, coming back from Polarians, Atlanteans, Hyperboreans, Lemurians, and Arians. So we are now descendants from Aryans, and we are awakening that ancestral Aryan DNA. And when we are able to wake that up and activate all these codes from all these different civilizations and cycles of human evolution, we will be able to get into the next cycle, which will be a different theme for all of us of exploration of consciousness, da 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 da. And of course, it will bring back a lot of psychic powers and abilities that once we had and were dormant for thousands of years.
How will they look?
Well, just like us, because they're our descendants, obviously.
Okay. Do you know if Atlanteans had elongated skulls?
Yes, many of them did have a lot of larger pineal gland, which makes it so that the skulls are shaped in a larger shape.
Uh-huh.
We have
So,
evidence of that in the Amarla lineages in Egypt. If we observe the lineages of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, like Akhenaten and
yep.
Nefertiti and all these, we can see the elongated skull. That's because they do come from Atlantis.
Did Akhenaten come from Atlantis or from the stars?
Both, obviously, because it's an admixture.
Uh-huh. What race what culture did Akhenaten came from?
They do have a strong connection to Sirius, to
Yep.
Orion, and Atlantis.
Right. So he was the first one who brought this idea of the sun god, right, to
Yes.
Egypt.
Yes, Akhenaten was, I think he was the one that made shifted the spiritual culture of Egypt to be monotheist instead of a lot of
Yeah,
deities, I
just
will
for
say.
his lifetime. Then they reverted, but it sort of stayed somehow. So, where from did he bring it?
I have no idea about that specifically.
Obviously, I mean, to be sun god, you have to be in a solar system. But maybe there was another culture which had another sun god, or it was adopted somehow.
Yes.
What do you think about monotheism?
I do believe that monotheism should be followed in a way that we understand that that one God that exists is the all that is, and it's multifaceted, and everything that exists is everything and everyone, but not one single archetypal energy. And what do I mean with that is that there was a purpose for multifaceted deities spiritual system. like the opposite of monotheism. Why? That is because the soul consciousness, human consciousness, it's multifaceted, of course. And we have a map of the soul, like astrology on our astrological chart, and we have archetypal energies. So, for example, that's why we had in many cultures we have a god that represented war, another one that represented, love and fertility, others that represented peace or I don't know, purity. Those were made on purpose so that we will have, let's say, an archetypal consciousness that in form of a deity, so that it channels only divine and represented in a divine, pure way, so that by connecting with them and integrating that within our own DNA, we will be able to activate and integrate those archetypal energies within our own genetic blueprint.
Switching topic a bit, I'm just getting closer to finishing, maybe another 10-15 minutes, but I wanted to close some of the started topics. So, what other races on the planet did you have? In which races on the planet did you have incarnation? Do you remember incarnations?
Races on the planet?
Like you incarnated twice in Germany. What other races
Yeah.
did you incarnate in? Where else did you live?
That I'm aware of, it
Yeah.
backs up to thousands of years ago. Many in Atlantis, many in Hyperborea, and many of them also in inner Earth civilizations, such as the Vrilya and the Agarthians.
Have you had
And one of
incarnations?
them, sorry,
Go ahead.
one of them in Egypt,
Uh-huh. Had you had
in ancient.
incarnations in among Jews, blacks, Indians?
Me? You mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, okay. Um, the I remember I'm strongly influenced by some incarnation where I was among some sort of Nordic people, but I'm not sure which ones. Do you know any? Can you guess anything? Can you read anything?
Well, I will have to meditate to be able to read
Okay,
such a specific question because it's back up in the Akashic records.
okay.
So,
Yeah, I
but there are
have
many
glimpses.
admixtures.
Go ahead.
There are many admixtures even within specific ethnias or races. For example, Europeans have many different, and backgrounds. We have the Easterns, the Slavs, the Mediterraneans, the Nordics, the Germanics. But then within the Nordics themselves, we have many different admixtures. Some that are mixed up more with the Vikings, more with the Saxons, more with the Anglo-Saxons, the Celtics. So it's very big. The spectrum of genetics is very, very intense, and I like it.
Yeah, I think it was elsewhere on some other in some other world because whatever glimpses I get doesn't fit into any Earth history. But they were like very human looking, but yeah, I have nice memories of that. I don't think it was on this planet. Oh, another topic I wanted to touch Aryans when they came. So a lot is connected to Aryans, including Aryan conquest of India, Aryans in Russia, and Arjuna. Arjuna, I think, was an Aryan king.
Mhm.
Do you have any clarification on that story?
Not specifically on that king, but I know that yes, that Aryans pretty much are not just Nordics or European, Central European people, Western Europeans. You can find out that the Nordic Indians, the caste of Nordic Indians, were of a more of a Caucasian structure and wider complexion, and they were pretty much the one of the original Aryans, which actually Aryans in their language meant noble. And then in Iran, you also have the Indo-Iranians, which are actually also connected to Aryans as a concept, and as a family. And that's why there are many Iranians with light blue eyes and green eyes, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of confusion on the term Aryan. It just does not stand for Nordic Europeans, but mostly old Europeans and Indo-Europeans, I mean, Indo-Aryans, and then all these different lineages that come from those civilizations.
Where from did they come?
The Aryans,
Yeah.
well, the Aryans stands up for the fifth race. So it's a cycle, it's like it's a major race that was created out of the inherited DNA and genetics from civilizations such as Atlantean lineages, and Hyperborean lineages, you know. And of course, many of them their origin was from there, but they were rebirthed in many different regions of the planet, such as India, such as Europe, such as the north of Europe and Germany, you know, Iran even.
So Iran, Arian,
Yeah,
and
yes.
Orion. Did the Aryans come
Mhm.
from Orion?
Orion, no, not specifically, but we cannot say that Aryans come from one specific constellation, or it's true that is 100% related to Anunnakis, humanoid Anunnakis that have more mixtures with those that are considered to be Pleiadians, Syrians, Nordic, Alevaranians. So yes.
The
Oh, but 1 second. Sorry. Orionas is also another mixture that many Aryans have, because when we look up the Vrilja, the inner civilization of the Vrilja, they are the masters of that energy and where the real civilization took the word from. So they are Aryans and part of that family, and they have a strong connection with the Orion constellation and heritage from there, because they are a little bit amphibian race mixed, you know, like they have a little bit of amphibian DNA.
Yeah, that's what
They
I'm
are
saying. One of my alien connections is a frog person. So
yes,
amphib. So
amphibians.
what's their amphibian quality? So they live underwater.
Well, yes, they could. I assume they could.
Do you know any physiology, any anatomy?
Yes, the Virlia say in the novel that it was written by Edward Ballard Lytton, the Braille the Coming Race. It was said that they found out that they had a lot of physiognomical connections to and physiological connections to and relationships to frogs of Earth, and that they understood that many of their, for example, their hands, you know, have a specific similarities with them, their bone structure, things like that, you know, their bone density. And that's why they have more sensitivity also in their hands, and why it was said in the novel that when they used wands, they could practically use the real energy in a weaponized form, and that not all humans could do that because they have lost that, let's say, genetic property or characteristic in evolution, or because they don't have that specific mixture. That's actually why Harry Potter has connections to these whole things about these novels about the real, the inner Earth people. In Harry Potter, actually, they are inspired by these tales, so that's why they use wands and everything. It's based on the real.
Other than real civilization or real tribe, you mentioned another tribe which I couldn't recognize the name. What was another one which is connected to you? Real
Agartha,
and other one. What?
Agartha,
Any other? Because there was something which I
Shambhala,
didn't. It's all these ones I recognize pretty well, but there was another name which you called which I didn't recognize.
Hyperborea.
I know these guys too. So okay, so it's lost. I mean, I have to listen again. It was in the very beginning of the conversation you mentioned. I didn't want to interrupt you. So there was real and someone I didn't recognize. But so the ones you mentioned, Agartha, Hyperborea, I know these guys. Shambhala, yeah. So I'm running a project. It's a small project yet. I started it exactly a month and just a little bit more than a month ago, where I'm genotyping, finding the DNA sequences, physically, chemical DNA sequences of people, looking for non-parental emergence of DNA variants. Essentially, I'm looking at the families, two parents, at least one child. So far, we just looked at two families that were already published. And we're looking for emergence of something that a child got from not from the parents. So we're finding that the whole size of the genome is 6 billion letters, and fragments, insertions we find in published data are 15,000 letters, so billions, thousands. It's million times less, but still it's pretty substantial piece of DNA, 15,000 letters. And there are some variations about, I think it was about 50 or more markers, 50 or more variations, which are non-human, very unusual for humans. So we're specifically looking for alien gene insertions, alien DNA insertions. And now we are looking at volunteers. We have 10 volunteers, two families, maybe less than 10. I think eight volunteers, two families of four, and we are in the middle of the analysis of DNA. We already have the program working. We just need to get the data in proper format. So it's partly already sequenced, genotyped. So can you comment on that project? How realistic is to expect that we will find modern alien DNA insertions in families?
Well, the problem with that issue will be that current scientific communities do not understand DNA sequences at all when it comes to the relationship with consciousness. They just observe it from a more of a materialistic properties reality. They think of it as like protein synthesizes or synthesizing proteins, and that's it.
Yep.
And so it goes far beyond that. It does relate, it's related to consciousness. And that's why there's a lot of that it has been labeled as trash DNA when it's not trash DNA. They think it does not serve any purpose in the body, in the individual, when it does have, a purpose for existence, and it's pretty much connected to all of that, the genetic sequences and information from ETs. So I think that they will have to shift their perspective and way of interpreting DNA from ETs and consciousness in general.
Good answer. I'm. It's now 25 years as I run my project about DNA vibration and discovering the vibrational code of the DNA. So I'm looking at this. Each human genome is 6 billion letters, and we're looking at the code of vibrational codes, and they're massive. They're not one mutation. It's more like looking at everything at once and seeing fractal patterns in the whole genome, mostly in what so-called junk DNA.
So, yeah, junk DNA. I said trust DNA.
No, that's okay. We are both foreigners, right? English is not our first language.
Yes.
So I'm from Russia, a Jew from Russia. So my recent model from the last year is, if you see DNA double helix vertical double helix. I'm looking at the water structure around it, theoretically, no experiments, just looking at publications and meditating on it. So I'm placing the layers, flat layers of water horizontally, and the honeycomb, six-sided hexagonal honeycomb. So these layers of water would go horizontally relative to vertical DNA double helix. And depending on the sequence, they would shift left, right, forward. So these shifts between the layers of water, discrete shifts, would imprint the DNA sequence on water, and this is how DNA creates living water inside the cells, inside the nuclei, and that's where vibration actually are received and produced. So it's not DNA itself, it's DNA water crystal which creates that. So that's my current model. And
That's
there I'm seeing the competition between structure and destruction. Brahma is creating the
oh
structure
yeah.
and Shiva creating destruction. So it's constantly building structures, these honeycomb layers, and destroying them. It's constant rearrangement of these water layers, because as soon as they become bigger, they become charged, and the charge layer is unstable, so it has to lose some structure. So they shift back and forth, building uh, palaces, structures, symphonies, and creating chaos at the same time. So creating destruction at the same time. So that's why I'm so fascinated by necessity of evil in this matrix.
Well, yeah, something to understand is that the Anunnakis are constantly in fights for controlling human DNA evolution and the Draconian Empire too. And so we have to understand that there are regressive Anunnakis that observe us as their genetic experiment and their bastard children, and are trying to all the time destroy those structures of the DNA, the strands of the DNA that get more dimensionality, more dimensional depth, and that are able to channel higher frequency structures from the 13th or 12th dimensions. And there are those who are actually trying to stop them from intervening and creating more genetic iterations to gain more control of our population and consciousness by helping us activate that genetic memories. So the more that we integrate all those karmic cycles, and the more that we stand for our sovereignty and we stop them from trying to manipulate our genetic information, the more that we will evolve and become superhumans again, because they are very scared of that. That's why Atlantis was so targeted by them, because we were becoming very strong and very independent and very empowered. So
Did you have any incarnations as a dragon?
as a dragon, not that I'm aware of, but I do connect with dragons a lot and with a lot of mythological creatures such as fairies and elves.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. Whenever meet with dragon energy, I wake up my own dragon, because otherwise it's really hard to deal with them. But when you have your own, you're an insider. Um,
I actually do have an interesting story about dragons now that you
come
mentioned.
on, go ahead.
Well, I when I was a 16 to 17-year old, I was gifted by my mother a pendant that had a dragon on it. And I was super excited by it, and I was very, very obsessed with it, and I love dragons. And I watched The Hobbit, that has a dragon in its movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I was obsessed with that creature. And so as a psychic medium, I know that there were beings that were constantly hiding my necklace from me. And one day I did a test and I put it in my bedroom in one specific place. I went out to the street and I was like, okay, it's there. I know it's there and nobody can access my bedroom. So if it's gone, it's because somebody is taking it from me. So I went back and it was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And I yell at them saying, take back my dragon, take back my pendant, it's mine, it's mine. And what I found out is that eventually they did. There were Anunnaki regressive entities that were responsible from that pendant from disappearing, and I didn't know why. And so that day I had a nightmare in which they took me out of my body and they said to not connect with dragon energy. And I was like, what? Why are they trying to disconnect me from this and this mythological creature? And I didn't know until I eventually took back my dragon pendant, by the way. But eventually this year I traveled to Germany, and synchronistically I ended up in a place that it's famous for their myths on the Nibelungus people and Siegfried, Sigfredo, and the dragon. It's an heroic mythological Germanic story about how Siegfried was a warrior that fell in love with a Valkyria, and he fought with a sword to a dragon and against the Nibelungen, It's a very complex story that actually is very connected to Lord of the Rings story.
Mm-hmm.
They base themselves on that story, and so I got connected there with that story and with the Norse gods, and they explained to me that I have a strong connection with that. And now I understand why I was, targeted on stopping my connection from the dragon mythological creators back then by that Anunnaki group. So I just wanted to expose them. They can be that
So,
manipulative.
so ascension and creating a superhuman, right? So how do you see ascension?
I see it as a shift, a major shift of consciousness that is, let's say, structured by many different smaller cycles, fractalized smaller cycles of energetic shifts and evolution. So a process of multi-processes, I will say. We are getting to channel or to work in dynamics that are more of a higher dimension and density of consciousness.
Would it happen in the next, say, when will it happen, and would it happen at once or just gradually?
It's already happening, and it is gradually, and it has many different cycles of activation. So sometimes we'll feel deactivated, more dense or more chaotic, and sometimes we'll get to feel, more empowered or more inspired. That is because it's a process of activating and integrating. So it's all part of the bigger picture of
So it's
ascension.
already happening.
Yes, it is.
What do you think about first contact, open contact? Would it happen? When would it happen?
Well, they're discussing up there when will it be the time that we are prepared for that event to happen, to take place, because we are protected by the law of no interference, of course, and they do not want to trespass that. Trespass. I don't know. And so they are actually meditating on the fact that maybe it could be that the first ones to contact us will be the inner earth people, because they are the closest to us genetically and they look very similar to us. So maybe the first people will come from inside instead of outside.
How soon do you think we'll have awakening to aliens?
What?
How soon will collective
How
consciousness
soon?
awaken to the existence of the aliens, non-humans?
Well, depends on your individual journey. There are humans that are accelerating so fast in their evolution that are manifesting themselves in timelines in which that is already a big probability. But I will say that generally for all of us, it will be not until 2030, approximately.
Yeah, soon.
Yeah.
So, so some people kind of jump into timelines where it happens faster.
Yes, it depends on your own spiritual journey.
Cool. So, can you speed it up?
Me?
No. Can a person speed it up?
Yeah. Everybody can do that if they manage to do the spiritual inner work that they need to do in order to raise their frequency and match their reality.
So, are you helping the ascension?
Yes, I am.
Are you passionate about helping the ascension?
Yes, I am. It's my highest excitement to share all these different downloads that I get.
And why?
Because well, I am an old soul. I've been doing a lot of spiritual work in many incarnations on Earth as a starseed. So obviously, my excitement, my first excitement when I came first to this planet was to bring as much higher consciousness as I could and to help my people, others like me, awaken theirs too, so that we can create that peaceful heaven on earth, I will say.
Peaceful heaven on earth.
Yes, that reality that we lived in other star systems.
Okay, would be a nice ending, but I really like there is a next question which is much tougher. But humans choose otherwise, right? It's the choice of billions of people, and they choose to be not ascending. They choose. Many people choose anger or fight or grief or anything other low vibrations, or they choose to watch television. So what's up? Like we are forcing humanity to ascend while they are resisting that. What I mean, how about free will of humanity not to ascend?
Well, it all will depend on what they choose individually too. But what I perceive is that anger is not necessarily negative if you are using it properly, or if you express it naturally and then you become aware that you have done it is a little bit destructive. So you learn the correct way to use anger and channel that. So if humans are utilizing it constantly in a way that they're not actually doing any progress, of course they're not getting anywhere. But I do believe that we are anyways, everyone is evolving regardless of what they do, because evolution is like a phenomena that happened to all of us. We cannot stop learning, whether if it's through negativity and darkness or passion and love. So I guess everybody will get there eventually. It's just about enjoying the journey.
Yeah, I take it as playing chess. I'm playing
Yes,
my side, and the universe plays their side. So we are offering them the choices which we can offer, and then they're making choices. So right
yes,
now I'm offering the structure of DNA water, the DNA water structure, basically the hydrated DNA structure or DNA solution structure, which I think can awaken a lot of science. And I'm offering the idea of alien hybridization. So starseeds could actually analyze their DNA and have a physical evidence that they are actually hybrids. After
that's
that, there
great.
will be the next question of protecting their rights as hybrids.
That's good.
Building a culture of tolerance to hybrids.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. I wish, I mean, we wrote so many questions and touched so many topics. It would be nice to continue someday. Maybe in November
Anytime.
we could continue. Do you
Sure.
have any closing? Oh, how about you speak your favorite light language for the closing?
Light language. I can only speak light language when I do not decide that. It's like a soul aspect of myself that comes in and through, and I cannot control, but I cannot do it by my own choice, by my own will.
All right, I will speak whatever comes, and if there is something coming on your side, you're welcome to contribute. Ona ya ta hana ola ata ya ta 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 ana ata ola ana hola hana ya umana ya ana una ikata ala ha ala uma ta ana a una ya hata a ada ha uyakata una ha yamana hata a rata a hulkata.
Nice.
No responses coming on your side?
As I said, I have to
No?
be in a very specific
Sure,
state.
sure. I hope that there will be a spontaneous response. But great. It was nice to connect to you, and let's continue someday.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me here.
I will stop the broadcast. Bye, everybody. You know how to find. Oh, wait a second. I have advertisement somewhere. Here. You can find my project on xg1.org, which stands for Extraterrestrial Genetics Project 1.org. All right, and hucolo.org, which I didn't print out. Have a good